Biden having recovered from the personal tragedy and running in the primary. There were good candidates in there, including Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris. Biden wins the primary and then runs against Trump. Now,
viral pneumonia has hit central China's Wuhan city. Authorities have reported 27 cases in total, 7 of which are critical.
Have you been briefed by the CDC?
I have.
Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
He just had no control over it. He didn't know what COVID was.
It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
COVID shuts down most of American economy and society.
You don't have to buy so much. Take it easy. Just relax. Relax. We're doing great. It all will pass.
Well, good evening. After this day, 1,208 of the Trump administration, 176 days to go until our next presidential election. And while we are deep into the Trump presidency now, we are nonetheless covering a number of firsts tonight. For starters, the President of the United States stood in the Rose Garden today and accused his predecessor of committing a crime while offering no details or proof. And that wasn't even the lead story from the press conference today.
It was scary. It was unnerving. It was unnerving just to hear, in most cases, despite who you vote for in the presidency, you try to adapt who your president is because that's your president. But we have one who's name calling and just has no disregard for people. I don't know, just throwing mud on the office of the presidency in front of America and thinking it was funny and thinking it was okay. It was very disheartening.
Many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have 2 questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have 2 questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish,
Okay.
but can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
He was telling people to drink ammonia. Maybe that would be used as an antibacterial agent. I mean, people felt the leadership. And they felt threatened because COVID was, killed 1 million people.
I think that 2020 was such a moment. I mean, you had so many things happening simultaneously that you couldn't have predicted or probably couldn't orchestrate and probably never can again.
I'm not a victim, man. I'm not. You can ask him. They know me.
You have the murder of George Floyd. COVID's happening. So people are at home watching these things, trying to figure out what to do. And in a way, we're not under the traditional kind of mechanisms of social control where we're going to school and we're distracted from what's happening in the world around us. COVID made us stop and sit still and pay attention. And then social media was feeding us this kind of regular diet of what black people were experiencing.
Open it! No, I don't know what's going on. Okay, stop the car! Stop!
Which appeared to be at a heightened clip around police violence. And I think that agitated folks, and we were in a position to respond, and people took to the streets.
And so as you saw that progress being made, there were people who were happy to wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt.
America went insane over the weekend. That's barely an overstatement. People in their 80s who have lived in the U.S. all their lives said they'd never seen anything like it. Ask an 80-year-old. This was without precedent in the modern era. A small group of highly aggressive, emotionally charged activists took over our culture. They forced the entire country to obey their will. It all happened so fast and with such ferocity that virtually no one resisted it.
There was an atmosphere created around anyone who was lending their voice to black issues or the movement for black lives, right, to be placed under siege.
One of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter organization, who calls herself a trained Marxist, is now being called a fraud after property records showed Patrisse Cullors shelled out millions of dollars on 4 luxury homes.
When you see shit in the media and you see shit that's being talked about, please be diligent, because they are purposefully doing this. They are purposefully building a wedge between black people because they know that when we are together, we're stronger, and they've seen what we've done this last decade. They've seen what we've done.
The leaders of the movement have been vilified. I recognize from just watching what has happened to me. I've watched smear campaigns against me that came from people who look like me. And of course, from folks who are our opposition. And I know that they can make a story sound one way. And when you really truly do your research, you will find that what is being presented and the narrative that's being shaped benefits a certain group of people. And unfortunately, we as black folks sometimes play into that. Even if it's just by sharing something from a racist news outlet that has been pushing racist narratives every day, and then somehow we believe that it's true when it comes to something that we may find interest in. It's very, very dangerous. And so I would say that about the BLM movement and what I've watched happen to them, because of course we watched the organization shift in a way where it is not as present, where the chapters across the country or the other affiliated groups around the country have been vilified. The leaders of the movement have been vilified. And so again, from all of these years, over 30 years of me being in this work, I have watched the incline, decline. I've watched the people come and go, and I have watched the media never change, that it has stayed consistent in how it attempts to push narratives about our organizations, about our leaders, that really discredit and allow the rest of us to start to lose faith and hope in things that, you know, we should actually be working to build.
Reverend Jackson did begin to lose credibility with younger generations because younger generations didn't understand their history. With the rise of social media and the repeating of, oh, Jesse Jackson is a, long shot, Al Sharpton is a long shot, that what we did was we helped white America destroy a legend. Black people have to support their leaders, and we've not done a very good job of that.
I'm aware of COINTELPRO in the 1960s, right? The counterintelligence program, where J. Edgar Hoover particularly targeted the rise of black leadership. And he realized we were in a moment where, at least as they thought in the FBI and the CIA, that you can have a charismatic leader who could potentially galvanize black folks in such a way that they would be a threat to the American establishment. And because of that, they created a program, the counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, to target, dismantle, and disrupt that leadership. Many of them were assassinated. Some of them were now placed as political prisoners. And many of those organizations were pitted against each other to destroy each other internally. So when you see what started to happen with Black Lives Matter, I immediately said, oh, look, this is the same play out the old playbook. We can't fall for that.
I mean, there have been long-held conspiracy theories about the FBI, for example, and the anti-government movement has long formed itself in opposition to the FBI. There's conspiracy theories about more secretive parts of the American government, like the NSA.
I've been posting on Facebook for 4 to 5 years about this. If Hillary Clinton would have won, the world would have been over. It was game, set, match for America. She was their last step. She wasn't supposed to lose. We're taking back our country, and it's going to be biblical.
So the deep state is a conspiracy theory that the American government is secretly being controlled by a shadowy group of government operatives. And kind of what their intention is, this is kind of a moving target, not always clear, but they want to sort of destroy America from the inside.
There's no schedule, from my understanding, from what I interpret, because dates can always be moved because of what the deep state does and what I guess, what the military intelligence wants to do. But
and misinformation is necessary
exactly.
Because can't say what all the moves are to the people that are involved, but this is a show we're watching right now.
If you go one step further, then you get the globalists, which is sort of like a global scale of the deep state, where there is a sort of a cabal of influential organizations who are trying to strive for like total world domination. Often anti-Semitic conspiracies are rolled into it. They've also been the backbone of QAnon, the QAnon conspiracy theory, which gained steam under Trump and has sort of become now just a sort of broader, the core tenets of QAnon, I think, have now become sort of adopted by just the broader base, Trump's base.
But I think as this is happening, the opposition realizes how dangerous this is, how much power the movement is amassing in a very short period of time. And how do you stop this from moving forward? And I think that's what happened politically. There were protests where the Proud Boys would meet protesters.
We saw, first of all, armed white groups going out to act as vigilante police. Another thing to know is sort of who the MAGA movement chooses to lionize and celebrate. Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the white couple who stood on their lawn in St. Louis and pointed guns at Black Lives Matter protesters. They were invited to speak at the RNC that year, and Mark McCloskey ran for office and has been a constant fixture on Fox News and at CPAC since. Kyle Rittenhouse, the teenager who shot people at a Black Lives Matter protest in Kenosha, he has been turned into a folk hero. Father and son duo who murdered Ahmaud Arbery, they were also lionized and celebrated by the far right. And so I think this idea, they're hearkening back to this images of white gangs running black people out of towns, or slave patrols. It's the same, the fact that they were celebrated as sort of standing, defending your communities and standing up to lawlessness. It all comes back to the same roots of white supremacy, the people that they're choosing to hold up and celebrate.
Imagine, I left one place where Breonna Taylor had been murdered. I was standing outside of the window that the bullets went through into her apartment, and I could literally see fresh holes. We were out there with community members who had so much information about this case, and yet it was more than 2 months later, and nothing had been done. The mayor didn't seem to have the control over his city enough to say something has to be done. And a police chief who clearly was not going to charge his own officers, clearly was not going to hold his own officers accountable. And then, of course, a district attorney who had already been clear that he did not want to be involved in the investigation. So this is what we witnessed and what we left to travel to another city where a man had literally been kneed to death, choked to death. So I got there frustrated. I was pissed off. There were lies coming from the police department that Breonna was involved with this drug dealer and that she was using the post office to run packages for him. And at the same time, they were attempting to do the same exact thing to George Floyd. And so when I walked out of the hotel that day, headed to the press conference, I had already made a decision that I was not going to say anything that had been prepared in my mind, that I was going to speak from my heart.
They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Charge them everywhere. That's the bottom line. Charge the cops. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for Black people, and we are tired.
What do we think is possible to happen in 2024 when the Supreme Court and state Supreme Courts have created precedents for not only being anti-protester and anti-protest, but for being pro-people who harm protesters? Their police officers are the ones who maintain the social order. They're the soldiers. They're the domestic military. They're the ones who come out on our streets and keep us in our place. This is why Kyle Rittenhouse is not in jail. This is why in certain states you can actually drive a car through an act of protest and not be punished. All of these things have been set in place for moments like this to make sure that the people don't have too much voice, which is why we can't leave any tool to raise our voice unused. The protest, the vote, and everything in between.
It was almost like a mini civil war happening in America, where people were on the ground responding to police murder, and racists were on the ground saying, so what?
It's been a long time infiltration. They're nothing but communists. We the people are taking our country back. And Trump is giving it to us. Go get her, she's yours.
What we know for sure, what history has taught us, is power concedes nothing without demand.
The group of about 100 to 200 Black men and women held a rally.
And so we cannot keep asking. For so long we said, can you please stop shooting us? Can you please stop beating us and lynching us? Until we started declaring, you will not violate my right to live. You will not violate my right to peace. You will not violate my right to joy.
So when people saw that, I think, in 2020, they now said, okay, I'm not going to give Donald Trump another chance. I'm going back to the Democrats.
Intensity decides elections. After the reality of President Trump, there was an intensity because we dealt with the reality. When you were having COVID deaths and 1 out of 8 people who were dying were Black people and people of color, you were dealing with the reality of it all. It was no longer a television show. And so I actually think that Black people, as we consistently have, are going to save democracy in the United States again in November.
It was January 6, 2021.
We'll never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. We're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness.
Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump!
His supporters marched on the Capitol. It was an insurrection. And you would think, given all of that, given his behavior in office, given January 6th, given what we've learned about behind the scenes in January 6th, given the fact that he is now a convicted felon, he doesn't diminish, apparently, in popularity.